Well, welcome on a Friday night. Glad to have you. So tonight, I'm going to preach on something, and the title's going to be kind of strange. It's Why Do You Do What You Do? Pastor has said this before. He has said, what's the why behind the what? Right? And why are you doing what you're doing? Is it to be noticed? Is it, which in today's day and age, that is a whole lot of that, isn't there? It's all about, hey, look at me. Look at me. Do you see me? Oh, man, I look good. Right? That is like the spirit of the Antichrist is everywhere. There's a guy, he's a nice guy, but he's a pretty big boy, but when he walks through the gym, he's got this, he does this. Oh, yeah. Now, he doesn't have this, but he walks through like, yeah, everybody's looking at me. I know that. I'm big. And I just and it's so funny because I can see it. You can see that spirit on the person, right? You know what's going on and what they're thinking. And, of course, I like to add a little bit to it. So I come and go, man, you look good. It's like, oh, I know, I'm terrible. And now he's like, yeah, I do. No, he doesn't. So it's the why. Why do you do what you do? What's behind it? Our example in what we do is Jesus. That should be the example. We do what he does. So when you look at, and you can just watch as the scriptures come up, but look at John 6:38 says, Jesus says this, "For I've come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." Nobody said to Jesus, no one's ever gone up to Jesus and gone, so why are you doing this? You're just trying to be noticed? Yeah, I want to be crucified. I don't see anybody jumping in that ring, right? No, he came down to do what his Father asked. That's what this is about. It's not about, look at me. Jesus was not that guy. If there was anybody that had an opportunity to get puffed up, wouldn't it have been Jesus? I could see him walking around. Are you kidding me? I made the deaf hear. I made the blind see. Yeah, I raised the dead. That's me, this guy right here. Right? He never did that. That's not the example he set before us. And excuse me for getting a little, dramatic, but I'm a little wound up today. And that wasn't him. He's our example. You're not supposed to do something and go, oh, did you see what I did? Huh? Me? Right? How about John the Baptist? Religious leaders came out to see him. People came out and were baptized. He didn't have an attitude of arrogance. He had the guy's eating locusts and honey. That alone ought to tell you, this guy is just, as Pastor would say, a store-bought buns guy, right? Just a basic, simple guy. In fact, John 3:30 says this. This is what John the Baptist, this is how he thought. He says, he must increase, but I must decrease. John had a following, but he didn't let that go to his head. He's talking about Jesus. He knew that his why behind his what wasn't, this is about me. He's saying, no, he's got to increase. I'm nothing. I'm just doing this because I was told to. Those are a couple of people that you can see leave you a great example. And then Luke 3:16, I love what John says here. John responded to them all saying, as for me, I baptized you with water, but he is coming who is mightier than I, and I'm not fit to untie the straps of his sandals. That's the kind of humility that he had. He's saying, I'm nothing. All you people are coming out here to see me, but I'm not fit to untie this guy's sandals. And that's the attitude we're supposed to have. That why you're doing something should be about the focus of God. about drawing attention to God. And that's really what it should be about. And I don't know that the world thinks that way. As you know, the world is very much about me, 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 me. Look at me, right? The crazy thing is, Jesus says this about John. He said, "Truly I tell you, among those born of woman, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he." So that'll tell you not only what Jesus thought of John, but what you have to be. Look, you're not to be first. He says, whoever wants to be first needs to be last. You're not about you. This is about him. And I just had to, this came to me for two reasons. One was, I'll get to it, but when I was talking to the owner of the gym one day, and what he said to me, we were talking about something. I said, "Joe, how many shows have you competed in?" And Joe's close to my age, and he goes, "I've been in about 100. I went, "What?" He said, "I started when I was about 24. I competed up till 40. He said, "There were years I did 4 shows in a year." Can you imagine that? He said actually after a while he started to look, and it was really taking a toll on him, and he never noticed it, and then he started to back off. Then he had kids, and there was about a 10-year lull, and then he started competing again. Now, Joe got his pro card as a over 50 competitor, and he looks good, by the way. But you know what he said? It was really funny. I said that we were talking about a guy that my wife and I met at the grocery store, and I've seen him at the gym, and we started to talk to him a little bit, and he's just really, he's really an animated guy, but he started going into, "Yeah, I competed against Joe." He goes, "I ended up second, but I got to tell you, I believe I beat him." And he went on, oh yeah, it was hilarious, and he went on to all this. So one day we're in the gym, and I'm talking to Joe. I said, "You know so-and-so?" He goes, "Oh yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, he's still bent because he thinks that he beat me." He goes, "You know what's so funny, Dave?" He goes, "I compete to win, but," he said, "where the judges place me, I know this is a subjective sport. So where they place me is where they place me. I've never gotten all upset and said, 'I should have been one place higher.'" He goes, "Okay, did you win? No. Well, then you lost. Whether it was second or whether it was 8th. And I went, "Yeah, but we don't all think that way." and so he had the right attitude. He said to me, he goes, and I didn't know this, and Mel, maybe you know, but he said, "I was talking to my pastor about it one day." I didn't know he had a pastor. I'm glad he does. But he said, "What do you think of this?" And the pastor said something that was smart. He said, "As long as you're doing it for the glory of God," he said, "there's nothing wrong with it." And I know pastors talked about this, that if you're doing this all about you, about look at me, you got the wrong attitude. And really, you got to be real careful. And that wasn't what he was doing it for. Now, I don't know that he'll compete again, but, I just thought, I went, Joe, that's right, and that's wise. And you're not going to get yourself, as we've heard somebody say, in the trick bag, right? You keep out of trouble. So even with all this and what Jesus said about him, John the Baptist didn't think more highly of himself. I mean, he gave everything, including his life. The Apostle Peter, it said that he said, "I am not worthy to be crucified like the Lord, so crucify me upside down." I mean, it's bad enough getting crucified, but you do that? Those are people that don't think that much about the life that they're in. They know what they're going to have, and their why behind the what is probably on point, right? And even Jesus, he didn't consider himself equal. Look at Philippians 2:6 up here. "Who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped." He's your example. He says, I'm nothing. I'm not God. But he's our example for the whole world. These all did this for the glory of God. That's why they did what they did, not for themselves. Why do you do what you're doing? So you see this, and I'll just cover a few of them. And I'm not condemning anybody. Boy, I've done all the stupid things you'd ever not want to do. And I was that guy for a long time. But, you see it. You see this spirit. Hey, check out my arm sleeves. I got tattoos up and down both sides. Yeah, look at this. This is cool. In about 40 years, that's going to say, whoa, right? It ain't going to look the same. Trust me. And then, oh yeah, I got my neck tattooed and over here, and I'm going to do my eyelids. Why? Who's going to see it? Well, when I sleep. And who's going to see it? Right? And I actually had somebody say that. That's why I thought of that. I was like, you're going to tattoo your eyelids. What in the world? I'll be different. Nobody's got that. Okay. I'm even thinking of getting one in my armpit. Again, why? I'll be different. Nobody's got that. There's a reason. Right? By the way, who's the guy that's going to do that one? I want to meet him. I got 22 ear piercings in this one and 40 over here. I can't get through the metal detector, but look how cool. Why? But this is how the world is thinking, because the enemy is in the world and rules the world. It's the epitome of, look at me. What they don't realize, and I'm not going to turn to it, we'll put them up there, is look what God did for you. Look at Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare, not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. He is going to give you something that not everybody has if you walk with him. This is how he made you. How about the next one? Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that we would walk in them. You were made by God for good works, and he prepared you, as Pastor has said, for something that only you would be able to do. He put gifts in you that are yours and only yours. How about the last one, Psalm 139? Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. He had days ordained for you, me, everybody. He had a plan for you. I know the plans I have for you. You want to be different? Just follow what God said. He already made you different. He made you unique. And I think, man, look how the enemy has pulled people from that and said, do all of these wild things and you'll be different. No, I hate to say this. Everybody is tattooed now. Everybody's got earrings. Everybody's got nose rings and neck rings and, you name it. Could you imagine 330 million Dave Kilcreces? Nobody would ever get a word in edgewise. There would be constant sound. It would never stop. You would not want that. You want to be different, follow God. You don't want the same. I even told Cole, I said, buddy, don't follow what the world's doing. You don't need this stuff. You want to be different? Go to church. That'll make you different. If you follow the world, you'll be into, look at the size of my house. Look at the car I'm driving. You know how much that was? Look at my watch. This is the most expensive Rolex. This is an Armani suit. My shoes are more costly than what you make in a year. It's great. And again, what will that do for you? What's your why behind that what? Look at me. I once asked Pastor, I said, how did you get so known at Rhema? I love the answer. He said, don't ever set out to get known. He didn't answer the question. He just said, don't ever set out to get known. If God wants you known, you'll be known. And I went, boy, that goes against the world. Oh my gosh. Do you know, I know you'll laugh, and I may have told this, but do you know that that wasn't the way it was? That wasn't how I was brought up. And so, do you know that, and I don't know that I really thought about it and set out to be this, but I was that guy that, as you know, talked to everybody. So I was voted most popular guy in high school. Oh yeah. Look at me, most popular. Okay, and I was on my way to hell. I was the most popular guy in hell at that point. That is the truth. How stupid. I mean, what did that get me? Who cares? What's your why behind the what? What was I doing? Get to know everybody. Why? I don't know. Just know everybody. I like to tell on myself because I just laugh at what I was like. Oh my gosh. So let's look at somebody who did this. Somebody who set out to be the one that everybody looks at. Look at Isaiah 14:11 through 15. I'm going to read it off of here. Your pomp, if you're wondering, this is writing about Satan. Now, he says, I believe in here was the king of Tyre, but it's actually about Satan. Look what he says. Your pomp and the music of your harps have been brought down to Sheol. Maggots are spread out as your bed beneath you, and worms are your covering. How you have fallen from heaven, O star of the morning, which he was called, son of the dawn. You have been cut down to earth, you who have weakened the nations. But you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of assembly in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Nevertheless, you will be thrust down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. This, by the way, the why behind his what, I think you can figure it out. And look what the outcome was. So the warning is here. What are you doing? Is it for you or is it for the glory of God? The warning is where he's going to be thrust down. That's not what we want. Then look over at Ezekiel. You were the anointed cherub who covers, and I placed you there. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked in the midst of the stones of fire. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until righteousness was found in you. By the abundance of your trade, you were internally filled with violence, and you sinned. Therefore, I have cast you as profane from the mountain of God, and I have destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom by reason of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I put you before the kings that they may see you. By the multitude of the iniquities in the unrighteousness of your trade, you profaned your sanctuaries. Therefore I have brought fire from the midst of you. It has consumed you, and I have turned you to ashes on the earth and in the eyes of all who see you. You know, did you notice what he's saying in there about him? He said he was beautiful. Boy, isn't that what the world wants? And he got so puffed up, so caught up in, I can be God. I'll be God. He's nothing. No, I don't think so. The outcome here for Satan is not good. Man, this was a highly favored angel. Beautiful, the morning star. He was the covering, I believe, of the mercy seat, right? That was, yeah. I mean, this was, what else do you want? Well, I'm number 2. I want to be number 1. Well, how'd that work out? You know, there's a lot of people that think they want to be pastor. I think he would trade if God would allow him. Is this who we want to imitate, or would we rather be Christ-like? If you're Christ-like, you have humility, and you're eternally with him. If you're full of pride and arrogance, you're like your father, the devil. So ask the question always, what's the why behind my what? Why am I doing this? So remember, we came to serve, not be served. That's what Jesus said we were to be. And, you know, as I said before, when talking with Joe, he said, hey, this is just for the glory of God. He is not hung up on himself. And, you know, the guy lives in St. Albans. It's not like he's struggling. He's an investment guy. And he's no dummy. And, you know, I just tell you that if you focus on God and draw your attention to God, he'll make your way. And you will be exactly what he wanted you to be. And your why will be about his what. What does he want me to do? Amen? Okay.